to give you some pointers, but I want to say to begin with, right, that the human heart is like a force that is you can't reckon with, in the sense that the way we love and whom we love and how we want to be loved is not just a conglomerate of attachment patterns and whatever, right? It's a mystery, and there's a mystery to loving and being loved and wanting to be loved, and that will always be the case. Where some people we just we have things to do, right, so to speak, that can't be all explained by pathology, or whatever, or psychology. There's a mystical quality to it, and so I'm not arguing with the mystical quality of it, right? And I'm not arguing with the heartbreak and the sadness and the grief and the loss, because it's losing a relationship by divorce and losing a relationship by death are, in the grief value, not that different, right? Sometimes, I don't know about you, but there were moments in my life where I was like, I'd rather had you dead. But
it would be much easier.
Yes, much easier. But then when somebody very, very dear and very close to me died, I realized that wasn't the case, because you can always work with a living being, even if you never speak with them again. There's something about seeing that person progress through the ages, even from afar. Thank you, social media. Where you can then go, oh, I wasn't mad, or oh, that was the right idea, or oh fuck, why didn't I realize that? So when somebody isn't dead, there's always the chance for redemption, not as in fixing the relationship, but by gaining more understanding. While, of course, when somebody is dead, unless you read their journals, if they generously left them for you, I just burned everything that hadn't burned in the fire, because I one morning woke up and I'm like, I don't want anybody to read this shit. And then I was like, well, I never read this shit again, because it's free-form writing. So I chucked everything, So unless they leave the journals and give you the detailed insight of their inner landscape as it appeared through the ages, you don't ever get a chance to see what actually happened. But I'm saying this to say, I sympathize with your heartache and the loss and the abject terror of what the fuck have I done, right? That's in there. So, but that all said, we all go through breakups, and within that breakup, there's different columns, so to speak, of what we can consider. One of which is us and what we need. One of it is them and what they need, and one of it is the greater good, let's say, right? Like the bigger picture. Your life, the life, your partner's life, all of that. And then beyond that, and that's the key, actually, service, right? Because there is. What did you have to learn from the relationship is one way that people go into working with breakups and grief, right? But what did you have to learn? What were your responsibilities? What were not your responsibilities? Where did this all come from? Which is this kind of stuff that I've just explored with Katie, in the sense of, are there some imprints and wounds that can be worked with? Blah, 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 blah. So you can do that, and that's illuminating, but it doesn't do much for the heartache. It just allows you to potentially make sense, which reduces the severity a bit, and then also maybe not have that happen again. So a good post-mortem, right, where you cut the body of the relationship open and you weigh the organs, so to speak. I worked in the morgue, so I have I loved those kind of analogies, because that's what you do, right? Somebody dies, you go in there, you take everything out, you look at it. You hopefully, identify the cause of death. So you can do a post-mortem on the body of the relationship, so to speak. That's you. And then that's your partner, where you understand where did you hook each other in some unhealthy patterns? Where perhaps did your partner behave in ways that wasn't sustainable, right? So you kind of look at the 50-50 of that situation. Then you look at the relationship, and the relationship is the dance of those two entities, and it forms an entity of its own in a very short period of time. After a couple of months, people start forming the body of a relationship, and then as they go along, that body becomes a living, breathing thing, so to speak, right? So you can look at the what went wrong in the relationship. That's also not going to really soothe your heart, right? The things that are going to soothe your heart are, on one end, feeling let's say, the bigger picture, and then being in service to that bigger picture. And so what I mean by that is the way human beings usually are happiest is when they give of themselves, not in a martyr way, but from the generosity of their spirit or their heart, right? So if you can feel the relationship and maybe even feel beyond that into, how many children did your partner have? Two. So how old were they?
5 and 7.
Yeah. So if you for a moment take yourself out of the equation as not wanting to raise a 5 and a 7-year-old, and you feel into the heart of the 5 and the 7-year-old from your heart. Yeah, did you feel that? Yeah. Your entire face changed. Right? Then there's no doubt that you are in service of two little people and their hearts. And in the extension to that, their mother, their father, and then coming back to you, because you don't want to live with the potential implication of that. And so if you can allow yourself to feel the service aspect in your heart, the heart that loves and that's dedicated to love and that wouldn't want anything less than love, not only for yourself, but for everyone who is connected with you, right? It's like this little red string coming out of your heart, threading through his heart, threading into his children's heart, so to speak, and then beyond into their children's hearts, and so on and so on. You have the option of avoiding generational trauma, right? You have that option. When you give birth to somebody, you don't have that option. But you can actually step away and go, I am in service of that. And while I hurt, and while I'm collapsed, and while this sucks, I'm of service, right? And that getting out of your thing, which only happens on occasion, right? Then you go, ah! And then you kind of, you go, these little fucking bastards, if they were never born, right? And you're like, I'm gonna cook them, And then you pop out of that into that place that you were in a moment ago, right? And then you come back to, and the more you do that, the less painful these things are, because you are in the service of something greater, so much greater than you. And then, interestingly enough, that puts you in a spot where you're much better equipped for yourself with anyone you meet, because you're not in that collapsed black hole state of bye-bye, you're in the right, there's a vastness and an expanse about you when you sit in that space long enough, right? And so that's the unfortunate, honest answer as to how do you heal your heartache is you go beyond yourself, and you do enough of it so that, and that's not to say you don't have those moments. That's why I'm saying you're allowed to go, all the stuff that one does, right? You're allowed to do that. That's also healthy. You don't want to suppress any part of it, but you always want to pop out of that place into the more expanded place before that contraction calcifies. Yeah. So that's, so you made a very good choice, right? And then that choice empowers you for other good choices.